African Americans or blacks, primarily, no, and I'm talking about research level, PhD level, people who think, there's a certain way you're supposed to conduct your behavior formally in a business setting. It's not always the case that you reach for the handshake, right? I meet somebody for the first time. He might be a black guy like me, and I meet him for the first time, and drawing attention to race is ridiculous, but it doesn't matter. So I go to see him, and you give him the traditional corporate handshake. Hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, Bob. We talk for a little bit. We go out to eat a couple of times. Might go play around a golf, whatever. I see him, 6 months later, and now when we greet, we don't greet like this anymore. When I greet, I lean in, right? For the the canonical, traditional. We're chill, right? But it's now corporate, right? It's now corporate. It's sort of like, I love to see the fact that corporate people are doing it. It's not an African American thing or a black thing, but it's another way. It's a gesture that we're closer. Our friendship is less formal than a handshake, but not as comfortable to give them a full-blown hug, right? This is one of the reasons why I don't know why people found it so interesting. I mean, for me, it was sort of, okay, what's the big deal? But it was a cool moment. Again, a lot of contemporary pop culture references so that you get a sense of how impactful this really is. Michelle Obama, Barack Obama's on stage. I forget what's going on. I remember Michelle was wearing a purple dress. Barack, I'm not looking at your wife like that, right? Don't send the guys after me. But, Michelle, she looked good. So I think she was wearing a purple dress, and, her and Barack are going at it, and he might have leaned in for a kiss, and then they backed up, and she gives him fist bump, or fist, I forget what like Yahoo said, it was like a fist. They had some weird name for it. In the urban community, at least to my knowledge, we call it DAP, D-A-P, right? You dap them up, right? So it's like a fist bump. I think that's what they call it, fist bump, right? So she gives him a fist bump, and everybody was like, holy crap. There's a sense in which, similarly, like the Anderson Cooper interview, it was, wow, an indication, when you're at home, that's probably how Barack and Michelle are. All right, Michelle, I'm going to go off and save the world. Okay, have a good day at work, sweetie. Click. It's an experience. It's a feeling. When you see that in your participant, and I love it. That's why I love what I'm doing, right? It's sort of like, even now that I'm not getting that feedback from you. A perfect example is when I'm here laughing just a couple of seconds ago, I feel in some bizarre sense a connection to, not everybody, but a few people will be like, you're following along with the discourse with me, and you might be laughing as well, right? I can't see that. If you were really here, I'd be able to see it and make all of these assessments, but there's a feeling. So I don't even, me now, as I'm doing this lecture series right now, have a feeling that, there's a sense in which I do allow you access to who I am as a real person, but it's in chunks. And it's not going to be one continuous succession of events. You're going to have to recreate the experience of what it might be like to be me, what it might be like to be Barack and Michelle Obama, what it might be like to be Anderson Cooper, based on very keen perception, right? That's what it is. You have to recognize, however, that it's not all hunky-dory. There is an ability here to completely step out of line. There is a sense in which immediately we can go from a very jovial, happy, friendly experience to something that is no longer what you thought you signed up for, right? And this is where ethics is concerned, right? Because there is a sense in which I can immediately, deliberately, systematically, because I've designed this lecture series just to give you a new experience, that, are you serious? Do you really think that I'm connected to any of you people? That I really care? You think I'm doing this for y'all? I'm not. I don't care. Holy crap, what the hell? Is Dr. Campbell schizophrenic? I was just laughing with him a couple seconds ago, now he's scaring me. I'm teasing, right? I'm playing a role so that you can get the experience, right? As the researcher, if I'm engaged in research and I see a level of comfort, and then I recognize, quote unquote, they're letting their guard down, and I recognize letting your guard down is a sign of weakness, And then I transform, I change the nature of the interview so that it's no longer an interview and it now becomes an interrogation. For example, I told you hours before I had a student who did an interview with a child soldier. I'll recreate an experience. So you'll be the child soldier for a second. I'm going to be a novice evil. And my graduate student was a genius, and he graduated. He has his PhD now, so he knows I'm not talking about him if he's watching my series, which he shouldn't be. He should be off doing research. The idea is, with respect to your participation again in the act, I'm trying to make sense of how could you do that, right? How could you actually kill another human being? If it was me, I wouldn't have done that. I just don't. I'm not trying to cast judgment on you. I understand that you were in a bad situation and they forced you to kill somebody or to kill a lot of people. But to me, it's just like, don't you see that that's the wrong thing to do? Don't you see that that's not right? Do you see how quickly the interview changed? Right? The interview changed. The nature of the interview changed. Why? Because now the participant is thinking to himself or herself, holy crap, I never picked up the cues. Right? I must have missed the cues. This dude is off his freaking meds. How could you possibly ask me a question like that? Right? It breaks the veneer. It breaks the... there's no better way to say it. It destroys the veneer. I'll give you another example. Again, super hard lecture to give. This might seem like I'm having a fun time up here. It's not an easy lecture to give because this isn't a science, right? It's a lot of feeling, a lot of vibe. So I have to try and train and teach you on a feeling of vibe, and that's a really hard thing to do. Pop culture helps when you're doing something like that. Imagine you sit down, you pay your $15, you go into the movie theater, you're I don't know, Bourne. You're watching Jason Bourne, right? I love freaking Bourne. So you're watching Jason Bourne, and you're in it, right? He's doing the thing. He's fighting the bad guys. He's got all types of cool tech. He's doing karate, And then all of a sudden, the film, in the middle of the movie, you're the film. It jumps off a reel, and the screen's screwed up for a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then the movie starts running again. The part where the film jumped reel, that physical experience of us witnessing the film jumped reel pulls us out. It forces us out of the lie, the narrative. There has to be a continuity in the experience. The experience, as experience, has to be a continuous flow, a continuous energy, a continuous vibe, which is precisely, and now, because you've been so patient and you've watched me for hundreds and hundreds of hours, some of you, I doubt any of you, I'll give you a little insight. And this is the only bit of Jason that I'm going to give you. This is precisely why, when I upload my videos to YouTube, I don't do the contemporary YouTube phenomena where you see the narrator, the YouTuber, chop the video. So they'll segment pieces, the errors, the mistakes in the video, so that the video is jarring, right? Because you say, oh, that's where the edit is, that's where the edit is, that's where the edit is. But it gives also a cool little effect. I'm not knocking people for doing it. I actually like it. I've thought about doing it. The reason I don't do that is because I feel it pulls you out of the experience. It pulls you out of the experience. I want your experience with me as researcher and sort of participant in my YouTube experience. I want you to see me continuously in the mode of presentation. Right? I want you to see the fluidity, including the errors. Not really sure if it's unconscious or subconscious. I could have clipped that out. Who cares? Someone's going to tell me. Dr. Campbell's actually this. Great, now I know. I'm smarter. Right? So I don't mind you guys seeing my flaws. I don't mind you guys seeing my weaknesses. But obviously somebody would cut out those pieces in their YouTube upload. For me, seeing my weaknesses, seeing my flaws, the fact that my videos, none of them, even the really difficult logic videos that I've done, my errors are in there. They're not many, but my errors are in there for all time. Why? Because I feel that you get a better insight into who I am, and your experience on my YouTube channel becomes more authentic, right? There is a sense in which, and this is the point I wanted to get to, it's very important,